I was so scared I became agoraphobic. Like I wouldn't leave my house. And if I had friends, I'd have to invite them over to be in my room. There was points where I couldn't watch TV because if someone dropped a pencil next to me in the room, it would feel like a gunshot. I mean, you would get that startled from like a little sound, or if like the door closed, like my body would just, I mean, adrenaline, panic, like I got struck by lightning. I mean, you feel like you're plugged into the electric outlet. You feel like you're sleeping on rocks. Now it's a little bit colder out, but every morning I would wake up, I'd go to the forest, I'd walk with my girlfriend around the forest. I'm walking all the time. I mean, I track my stuff, but I don't track it to freak out. I just track it because I track my calories and I want to stay fit and in shape and stuff. So I do that. I go to the gym twice per week. I walk everywhere for my groceries, like everything. I drive my car everywhere, watch movies. I run my own business. I teach like English online.
How's it going, Thrivers? Miguel here with CFS Recovery. In this video, we have Jerzy, who's been on quite the journey, as you know, almost everybody I interview. But he's been dealing with the symptoms for almost 15 years, and he dealt with it at a pretty severe level. It started 15 years ago, and as the years went on, it got worse and worse and progressed to full-blown CFS. But at his worst, he was dealing with paralyzing anxiety, severe symptoms, really just unable to function. And he was really just surviving. But today, he can do everything again. He's in the gym, he's fit, he's in shape, can walk 20,000 steps, no problem, and so much more. He's truly, truly thriving. So, Jerzy, it's an honor to be here with you today and to have you share your story. But you want to quickly introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, basically my name's Jerzy. I'm living in Poland, and yeah, basically like what Miguel said, you just kind of grow as an entire person. You go from like a hell to kind of your own little heaven in a way. I mean, compared to where you are before, it just feels like you're in heaven when you're not in that space anymore. So it's really nice. So it's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been on quite the journey. As I mentioned, you're 34 now, and these symptoms started around when you were 20 years old. But maybe take us back. How did these things start? I think we have a lot of similar experiences, a lot of crossover in our stories. But how did this all start for you? Because it started pretty young.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't have a similar experience to anybody else that's not dealing with CFS? So the thing is, I mean, I feel like this goes like way back. I mean, I could even start like with my childhood. I mean, I grew up, I was pretty bullied. And I didn't fit in really as a kid and stuff like that. So I might have had some tendencies to people pleasing and trying to fit in like as I was kind of growing up as a child. Um so putting myself first was usually never an option, and I kind of always put myself second. I wanted to be cool. um I also had a very kind of, I would say, a type A personality where I felt I wouldn't say it was perfectionism, but I would say I had a very like go-getter like mindset, like a very high ambition and stuff like that. And I always succeeded in school, got really good grades, and I mean, I lived like a normal life like everybody. And the thing that kind of I feel like really kind of set me off on the journey with anxiety, from what I remember, like I said before, with the whole bullying thing, I always had like a weight problem. So I really mistreated my body. I mean, I started to diet like crazy. I mean, I was eating chicken and broccoli. I was taking ephedra pills, like caffeine pills, just abusing myself with stimulants and stuff like that. And then on the weekends partying and just really not treating my body that well. And there just came a point, now that I recall clearly, where my body just started feeling really exhausted for no reason, and I didn't listen, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just tired, but whatever." And I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. I had a bright idea of continuing to kind of like really, really diet. And instead of kind of like drinking a beer on the weekend, I would take a Xanax because it didn't have calories or whatever. It was really dumb thinking. And then eventually what had happened is I think the abuse caught up to me. Ran out of that medication that I was using over the weekend, and all of a sudden it was just like I had a withdrawal from that medication, and all of the abuse kind of hit me at once. And I just woke up. It was like one day I just woke up and I had just crazy amounts of anxiety, panic attacks all the time. And I literally, since that day, I assumed that like I went crazy. I was like, okay, like I had no idea what was going on. No doctor told me like that medications could have side effects like this. I had no idea that I was doing this to myself because I just thought like, hey man, like toughen up. You know, you're a man. Like, dude, you can do anything like you set your mind to. Like, and I think just it was out of sheer ignorance that I ended up in that position. So I woke up one day just completely freaking out. I assumed I went crazy. And then ever since that day, like started a slew, like a path. Like after assuming that I went crazy, like I literally just started a path of like desperate researching on what was going on with me. And that's when I went down like years and years of rabbit holes of like assuming that I had all this stuff wrong with me. And boy, let me tell you what I tried out of desperation. And this was before like I had the fatigue because at this point my anxiety was just so high that the adrenaline was so high that there was just I could not feel fatigued. I mean, I was running around, sleeping 2 hours, waking up like heart pounding and just still like pushing myself. Like I can't even fathom how I went through school feeling like this. I graduated university with all of this anxiety. Like I was that like just sitting in lecture, like freaking out, dying. But like I was just so ambitious, like I couldn't like take a break and I never let anyone know what was going on. And I was just like studying. Like I had to study, I feel like 5 times as hard to get the good grades. And for some reason, like I still got A's and I have no idea honestly how I did it. And looking back now, it's beyond me how that happened in that state. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Mine was similar, like, especially in the beginning when this really started hitting me. It's like I was working out a ton, working a lot, drinking lots of coffees and energy drinks, and then my body just hit a wall. But I was feeling a lot of anxiety in the beginning, lots of panic attacks. So it's not like I had to stay in bed all the time due to fatigue. It was more so like I just couldn't stop my body from these adrenaline dumps. So it's almost like I had too much energy in my body that I wanted to burn it off. Like it was very hard to sit still. My whole life I couldn't really sit still, but now I couldn't even calm my mind down. And it was like that for several months before the fatigue really just stopped me in my tracks. It's like pure adrenaline.
yeah, I mean, you feel like almost like you got to get away from something, and then you don't know what, but you don't know. Like you always feel like there's something around the corner, like out to get you, and you're up for a fight. So it's like I got to do something. Like I got to move. I got to do this, and like sitting in a spot and being patient, like feels like death. So it's like I'm too scared to sit still. Like I need to do something, and you're always just run by like sheer fear and adrenaline, and it's such an awful place to be because even like looking back, like a lot of the decisions you make and like where you end up afterwards, like were like fear impulse based decisions. I don't know if that happens for you, but like you end up in situations that you not necessarily authentically would want to be in, but like you were like too scared to advocate for yourself, or you'd be too like just in sheer terror that it's just like I became a yes man, like yes, 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 and like people pleasing to the max, like because I was just too scared to like advocate for myself. You just become a yes, yes. You want to avoid confrontation. No, yes. Saying no was never an option. It's just like, yes, yeah, whatever you guys want to do. I just want to avoid this. Don't look at me in the eyes. Like, leave me alone. Like, I'm too scared to even like to say anything, otherwise. And that digs you into even like a lot of like depression comes from that too later on because it's like you lose your self confidence. You're completely disconnected from yourself. Like you don't know what you're feeling. You don't know what you like. You don't know what you want. I mean, your whole identity like is completely crushed. Like you go from this person that you felt like you had it together to a person that's completely just like fallen apart and like you don't know what happened and you have no idea. And you know where was I going to go with this? Yeah, I mean that's how it gets. You get depressed. I mean, I literally was felt like I can't do this anymore, and I woke up one day. I took like I had a bottle of Prozac, like a whole bottle of Clonopin or something, and I ate the whole thing. And I literally, my parents had like some alcohol in the cabinet. And I just drank it down. The next thing you know, man, like honest truth, I woke up in the hospital, like to seizures to just abrupt withdrawal from these medications, like having to spend 7 days like in a psych ward. And it wasn't fun. Like you're already freaking out like this, like, and now you're in a psych ward and then you're getting off of these medications. So
Hmm.
that's that was another really dark that was like the beginning of a really dark time for me after that. And you know, after that I kind of lost faith in doctors. So I kind of that's why I studied nutrition and I went down like a functional medicine route in school for my master's, because I kind of wanted I just wanted to heal myself. Like, dude, like, okay, medicine isn't working. I have to go down this route. So I like
Hmm.
taught myself, like, and I went through school for it. And after that, like, I went through so many tests, man. Oh, like, can't imagine. Like, I mean, you know what you go through to try to get yourself to feel better, and obviously none of it works for the
Hmm.
most part. But
Yeah, it's like a big kind of merry-go-round of tests. I call it the gauntlet of testing because it's such a hassle. It's very frustrating, and some of these tests take months to book out. And you go there, they do it, and then they tell you you're perfectly fine. So it's like you get your hopes up a little bit that they're going to find something which will lead to some kind of solution, and then they tell you you're perfectly fine, which causes you even more frustration and anxiety. So when you were having a lot of this severe anxiety in the beginning, where you feel like a tiger's around the corner, obviously the heart rate's up, you're probably dealing with some palpitations. What other kind of symptoms were you dealing with in the beginning? Were you getting headaches and stuff, or other weird things going on?
dude, I mean, I was so scared I became agoraphobic. Like I wouldn't leave my house. And if I had friends, I'd have to invite them over to be in my room because there was points where I couldn't watch TV because if someone dropped a pencil next to me in the room, it would feel like a gunshot. I mean, you would get that startled from like a little sound, or if like the door closed, like my body would just, I mean, adrenaline, panic, like I got struck by lightning. I mean, you feel like you're plugged into the electric outlet. You feel like you're sleeping on rocks. You have one thought that's running after the other, and you don't even, before you understand what you just thought about, the next one is piling in. And I mean, it's so, I don't know how else to describe it, as like just sheer, it's like sheer torture. And I mean, it's a primal fear. It's not like I'm nervous to go speak, like for example, on a Zoom call, or like in front of a podium in front of your classmates. I mean, this is like prime. There's like primal. Like this is like it's a
Yeah.
life or death, like life or death fear. Like I said, like a gun being held to your head all the time, and you can't sleep. You try to sleep and you wake up, you fall asleep just feeling horrible, and then you get woken up an hour and a half later, 2 hours later, if you're lucky to sleep that much, and the cycle repeats itself. And I mean, the only break that you have is that sleep from yourself. So it's like torture, torture, torture. Like you live to sleep. You live because it's like I can't wait to get that like 1 hour or two, because it's like I finally, like, maybe I'll dream about something else, and you finally get a break from yourself. So that's the best way I would describe it. I mean,
That's a pretty accurate description because that's exactly what I felt too. It's the only time that I felt a little bit normal was if I had a dream, if I could even get to sleep. But that was the only kind of time where I felt like I wasn't drowning. It's like it's the only time I got a breath of fresh air. But then a lot of times I would wake up and I'm like, oh man, I have to deal with this again. I have to make it through the day, essentially. So you're
yeah,
living to survive. That's it,
yeah.
which can really start to mess with your mind. So, I mean, it's interesting how you were still somewhat functional. You somehow were able to go to school and study nutrition because you wanted to fix yourself. Um, in that time period, what other stuff did you try, and what were the doctors telling you? By the way, just you're perfectly normal.
I mean, like I said, I have no idea how I went to school. Like, I don't want people to downplay it. Like, oh, like you were still able to go to school and stuff like that. Like, trust me, like what I'm describing to you now, that on 2 hours of sleep, like I forced myself to get in the car to do all of these, and I shouldn't have been doing that. So I went to doctors, dude. I tried every medicine, every antidepressant, A through Z. I could name them: Zoloft, Paxil, Celexa, Cymbalta, Lexapro, Tegretol, Seroquel, Zypexa. You name it. I know all these medicines because I've tried them. Klonopin, Xanax, Ativan. I mean, just all this stuff. And psychologists told me that, oh, you're anxious and you're depressed, which I was, which is true. And I went through functional medicine doctors. That was the worst idea because they tested my gut. They told me everything was wrong with me. They're like, you got nightmares and anxiety because you have gut dysbiosis, you've got candida overgrowth. Uh, I thought I mean, there was points where I thought I had tumors. I thought I had a cancer. I thought I had, I mean, just the list goes on. I mean, what did I tried every single supplement on the list: rhodiola, ashwagandha, vitamin B1, B6, B12, B12 shots, vitamin D. I even tried detox protocols like the Lugol's iodine bromine detox protocols. I did coffee enemas. Dude, this sounds gross, but I drank my own pee, dude. I peed and I drank my own pee because this guy said if you pee in a cup, you have all the it's filtered out and you have all the vitamins and you have everything. And I did that like 2 times. Dude, no shame in sharing that. Like, that's how desperate you get. I did coffee enemas. I did 5-day water fasts. I did the keto diet. I did the paleo diet, which I still stick to because I just feel good on it. But man, I did an all meat diet. I went vegan. I went raw vegan. Oh man, I saw neurologists. I mean, any test that you could possibly run. I thought I had an autoimmune condition. I was like, you guys need to check my inflammation markers. Like there's something going on because I have joint pain. My muscles are always hurting all the time. Like I feel weak. Like what's going on? Like, and obviously everyone said like in the medical community, like the regular medical community, everything is fine and everyone's pointing to like mentally that something's wrong. And of course I couldn't accept that. There's something physically wrong with me, because you feel it. You feel it's not in your head, like you feel it physically, right? And the
Mhm.
only people that made me feel like I had a bunch of stuff going on wrong with me was when I went like the homeopathic route. And let me tell you, man, it has its merit, and I really believe in homeopathic medicine and stuff like that. And I think it's good for healthy people that want to enhance their already healthy life. But for treating an underlying condition, it made everything worse. Learning from experience, taking everything away instead of adding to myself is what helped me get through this. It's like the less is more principle for me. It was something that I needed to learn throughout this whole process because I even tried TRT, testosterone replacement therapy.
Oh,
Oh,
how
that
that
was
that probably
oh,
didn't go too well.
that was the worst idea ever. Oh my god, dude. I
Oh,
mean, going through all these therapies is why it took me so many years, right? I mean, I also, experimented. Like, I got desperate, man. Like, I experimented with drugs to cope, man, because I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I went down that path. I would willing to do whatever. And the truth of the matter is until I actually surrendered, like when I stopped trying to fix myself and I accepted my current situation, I was like, look, dude, like this is what's going on. Like, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with you. This is a result of all of the things that had happened and the behaviors that you've continued to do. And like, once you get to a point where you're giving up, like in this, I know we're a little bit ahead of ourselves, but like once you get to this point of like where you give up, not in the fact that you're like giving up on life, but you're giving up on this like desire to like, I need to fix myself or make myself like better to be okay. Like that was paramount for me because you kind of realize like, look, man, like I'm good, like at a soul level. And then at that point, when you relax away from what's going on and you accept like the situation, it fixes itself primarily, right? Like you pace and you go forward step by step. And then at that point, it's just literally the mental letting go is like the key. Like, and I feel like you can apply this to anything that you have in life. Like the more you attach yourself to something, the more anxiety you create for yourself. But if you go into something without expectations and no desire to control the outcome, it always works out in your favor and it always works out in a calm way. Like that's how this whole thing taught me like how how stress is self-created and how like anxiety is self-created. And it all comes from how you perceive whatever you're experiencing and how you like look at the world. And when you kind of like look at a world in a way that's neutral and a non-judgmental perspective, like it's so freeing. And like it brings me to tears because I'm so grateful because I would have never known this, like because I wouldn't say I was an egotistical person. I would say I was like really insecure and a scared person. And that's also another side of ego. But when you're forced to, I feel like you're chosen to go through something like this to give yourself to have an opportunity to teach you, like life teaches you and gives you this experience to teach you that like you can have like self-acceptance and self-love a lot earlier, and you don't have to go like be an 80-year-old man and die in regret, like from all these things that you missed in your life, because this forces you to focus on the present, right? There's no, when you have this thing, I mean, there's no future. You don't see a future for yourself. You can't, like, you're hopeless. Like, you have nothing. Like, there's no future. You have to, all you have is what you have in front of you. And it really teaches you to focus on how to take one foot in front of the other and how to live step by step. And for that, I'm grateful, man, because I don't think that I would have had as much understanding for myself and other people if I haven't gone through this, nor would I have ever, like, I don't think, cared, because I wouldn't have anything to compare it to, right? And
Mhm.
I mean that's a lesson, bro. Like, it's a lesson of gratitude, and I'm no perfect human being, bro. I can only do the best with what I got. Um, and no regrets, man. If that's a message, like a takeaway that I could give people, is there's just, be yourself, man. No regrets. Like, you don't have to put up a show for anybody. You don't have to be someone. You don't have to prove yourself. Like, just relax. Like, relax, take things as they come, because that's what creates all of this stuff. Like, it's like you do it without knowing it. Like, you're conditioned to be a certain way. You have to act a certain way, behave in a certain way. And it's like, this is a journey back to you, like, like back to your authentic nature. I mean, at
That's a
least
good
it
word.
was for me.
Yeah, that's a
It's
really
like a
good.
journey back. It's a journey back to yourself. I mean, and for
Yeah.
people that are stubborn, like a lot of people like us and like CFS, like our ambition and our will and that drive is just, it overpowers that we have to get hit with something so low for us to pay attention to, like, hey, like, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, go deeper, go deeper. You need to change. Like, you need to change this. And like, you have to get hit with something so hard to be like, okay, now I have to like do something, So at least
Mhm.
that's what it was like for me, So for me, it's like, I know it's getting deep and like spiritual, but it was like that for me, and it continues to be like that. I'm constantly a growing person, and like
Mhm.
that's why
Mhm.
I want to give back this experience, man, like so bad.
Yeah.
Hopefully coach people like in the future, man, would be super cool. Yeah, man. I went off on a tangent. I know we were saying about what I tried, but I've just felt it, man. I felt like I had to say that.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, that's what I was saying. It's been a crazy, crazy journey for you. Like all the things you tried, and a lot of people also try a ton of stuff. But for you, when you were going through that, like what kept you going? You mentioned that you don't ever give up, and you were gonna figure out a way out. You're not that kind of person who's gonna give up, right? So what kept you going? What were you telling yourself when you're going through all these tests and you're trying these different things? Because all these things you mentioned, we rattled them off in like 2 minutes, but each of those things, sometimes it's like a multi-month process. Like trying a paleo diet or keto diet or vegan, that's like a
years,
multi
yeah. It's so
years progress.
yeah. It is a multi. I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah. So with all the testing, it was 3 years worth, and
Yeah.
that was just still with the anxiety. I don't remember if I was chronically fatigued then, because I was doing my master's in nutrition. Really what how bad it got. Actually, I want to include this detail to paint a picture, because I mean, with all the anxiety and stuff going on, I had two near death car accidents while I was anxious. And in that, imagine, in a sense, you're going through like a CFS sensitized state. So I got smacked. I mean, I have proof here. Like, I had a broken collarbone. I had a bunch of crazy stuff happen. My nervous system was so sensitized that my digestion literally stopped working. I had an experience. I was in college and I was doing like a vegan diet or whatever. I was drinking smoothies. It was one day I had a smoothie, and then hours later I just kind of like had a pain, like an intestinal pain. I had no idea, and like I curled in a ball, and I was just, my roommate called the ambulance because I was curled in a ball, just going like back and forth like this, like just crying. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I don't know." So they call the ambulance, and they thought I had appendicitis or whatnot. But when I went into the hospital, I was hospitalized, and they found that I had a bowel obstruction. And this is something that like 80-year-olds get, right? Because the intestine stops like working. And when you're in such a severely anxious state, you're not digesting, you're not in rest and digest. So like they took me in and I was hospitalized. So they had to like do life-saving surgery, right? And I had a 9-day like hospital stay. I lost 40 pounds in the hospital. Like they only put ice chips in my mouth. I couldn't drink water. I was hooked up to IVs. And that's after that, I got CFS. Like maybe. I don't know if it was that tipping point, but I mean, that was all part of it. And after that, like, man, the DPDR, I had that. I mean, all of it and just yeah, man. I mean, it was bad. It was I went
Mm.
through a lot of stuff. Like, it was just really bad for me. So I
Yeah.
think it extended for me because I could never catch a break. Like, I would see some progress, and I was like, I found the solution, and my anxiety was getting better, and I was a little bit in school, and then boom, and then now I'm in the hospital, and then boom, now I had a car accident, and it just
Mhm.
I felt like I never got a break, man, to be honest with you. So that's what took me so long. And being stubborn really didn't help
Mhm.
in a way. So
When did you feel like things started to turn around for you? Because it sounds like you were going downhill for years. Like you go downhill, then you kind of, you'd be okay for a bit. Then you drop again, you drop again. It's like a downward trajectory you were on. When did that shift? When did you start going on that kind of upward trajectory? And what was the thing that kind of, what do you call it? What was the catalyst for that turning the ship around?
was in Miami, and I lived in Florida at the time, and I listened to a book by Dr. Claire Weeks called Hope and Help for Your Nerves. And I listened through that, and she described like the process of everything kind of that happened to me. And I had my first kind of breakthrough moment that that's the direction that I have to kind of like go towards a direction of kind of like acceptance and surrender. And I started kind of dabbling in that direction and going towards the right path. So I feel like that was a catalyst for me to towards change and moving to a new country, to Poland. Like I kind of had to leave everything. I was into like I was into paramedic stuff and doing stuff as a first responder um, while in Miami. Still, mind you, feeling like just total garb. I mean, I had to live somehow, right? So I had to work. I had no choice. And just making a change to a new environment. So I came to Poland. I basically, sold all my stuff, and, I sobered up. I got off all my medications. I just told myself, like, I don't want to put anything else in my body that's going to dysregulate me. And I think that started the path. I had to change everything about my life, Miguel. I mean, I quit caffeine. I was using nicotine pouches to cope. I mean, any drugs. I mean, anything that I felt like when I came to the realization, it's like I want my body to heal itself. I think that was paramount for me. So I stopped looking for answers on the outside, like for a magic pill or for something that's going to fix me, or like a doctor to maybe wave his magic wand. And I started to look like inward, like, okay, it started with acceptance and surrender of my symptoms. And then I was looking through like some channels like on YouTube. I knew I had anxiety, and I didn't really resonate a lot with a lot of like the anxiety channels. Like they had like there's a few DP manuals and stuff. They all have like good material, and they all teach like acceptance and surrender. But what really resonated with me when I started watching your videos, I think it was like, man, 2 years ago or something like that. And the CFS, because I really like in my mind, like I needed something to be explained to me that like that's physical. Like, hey man, this is like a nervous system issue. Like I'm a science kind of guy, so I need to know the science. Like it's reassurance for me. Even now, like when I make a decision, like I like to do my research and collect my data.
Mhm.
Um and then kind of go on my intuition after I have like enough data. So basically doing that, and surrender and acceptance got me to a certain point. But I always where like the thoughts came down, like I didn't have panic attacks. I started to reintegrate. I was reintegrated into life, living my life, but the symptoms were there. And I think I had a lot of like roadblocks that I might have not been aware of, like frustration, and anger over how I was feeling, and just a lot of like resentment and stuff. And looking at your videos really helped me. And I remember like calling you like I don't know 2 years ago or something, and I was telling you kind of a little bit of like how I was doing. I was working. I was like, "Hey, Miguel, I'm watching your videos. Like, here's where I'm at and here's what I'm doing. You're like, oh man, like, I think you'll be good. Like, you'll be good. Just keep doing what you're doing. And, you know, I followed the advice, obviously just going back and forth and back and forth. And I was doing quite well, still having symptoms and stuff like that. And then I don't know, this year, about a few months ago, I got really sick and it threw me kind of into an AP and I freaked out and I joined the program. I'm like, you know what, dude? Like, what do I have to lose? Like I watch Miguel's stuff. Like I've talked to him, like I've seen, like he knows exactly what's up. Like I need to be a part of at least the community. Like I know what I'm doing. Like at least I thought I knew what I was doing. And I've been at this for so long, like, why not like jump in and be part of at least a community, like hear other people's stories. Maybe I could help somebody in the community as well, you know, share something from years of experience. And I think that that was really paramount for me because you feel understood and you feel heard when you're in a community. I think that's huge. Like, regardless, if you know, like, from because all the information you give that you need is it's on YouTube. But I feel like what's clutch about just being in like any program is the community support group and just being able to like know that you're not alone because we feel so alone in our situation, and no matter how many YouTube videos you watch, it's still someone on the other side of a screen that's pre-recorded in a video. And when you have something that's live and genuine, like you join some of these calls, some people are crying, they're sharing their emotions, like this is just authentic. Like it's people are in the trenches and they're sharing themselves, and like it's huge. I think that's very helpful for me. And and yeah, being just able to ask the coaches questions and stuff like that. Having an explanation like with the nervous system triangle was really cool. Just a lot of good information. Like I said, man, I love to understand. I like the information. I think it gives a lot of reassurance for people, and I think that's a huge part for the most part for recovery. I think that's a lot what people are really looking for because they know what to do, and I feel like we're just scared if we're doing it right, right, or we're scared if we're
Yeah.
implementing it correctly. Like we know, like deep down, but it's like, hey, like I just want to, like I want to make sure. So I think having that reassurance, needing the reassurance, it's human, right? But having it is huge, and I think that's very helpful.
Mm.
So I hope that answers the question. So for me, it's just been persistence, huge point. I had to change. Well, I had to let go, not change myself, who I am fundamentally, but accept who I was fundamentally, and to let go of things that no longer served me. This means self hate, self judgment, people pleasing. I had to say no when I had to say no. Change. It's not just about the physical stuff. I mean, this is a mental, physical, and spiritual, right? So I had to change a lot of the things that weren't serving me, right? The things that were going against my needs, right? I had to learn how to balance myself, not to push, how to be okay with resting, how to be okay with not having the same capacity that I did before, because I had problems with comparing myself to my previous self. If I could just
Mhm.
be like I was, and dude, let me tell you, man, if I were today the way that I was before, I'd probably get myself sick again or probably have a bleak future, right? Like who I am today is who I should have been all along. Like if I'm going to be honest with you. So,
Yeah.
um those are the key things that I would recommend. And I mean, like I said, it's a huge growth process, and I mean, I'm on the trajectory up. Like I'm in a state now where I'm learning like just more self-love, like just being present and grounded has been like my thing now. And yeah, man, I mean, it's a journey, let me tell you. You have to change everything. I mean, it's not one thing. And when people ask like, "Oh, like all these people say it's different things, like it's your diet, it's your this." They're all right, all of them. Everything is right. There's no this person has the answer, this person doesn't. It's all right. And I feel like if everybody can do their best to keep it wholesome and follow, if you're able to follow instructions and have, if you can have faith, that will help you a long way, right? Just believe that whatever someone is telling you, they're telling you the truth, and that they're sharing their heart because they actually went through it. Like you have to trust that. Like, I feel like a lot of the other YouTube things, like some people, they're always trying to sell you something or a quick fix, and like just trust that people genuinely know what you're going through and that you're not alone in this situation, and that'll free up a lot of like stress for you. I feel like that's a big recommendation. Is just have faith that you're not the only one, because you're not.
Mhm.
And that'll help remove a lot of anxiety for you guys, or for anyone that's going in
Yeah,
the future.
totally.
Yeah. Sorry, I had a lot to say, man. I didn't let you ask a lot of questions. I just really had so much to say, man. Really, to be
No, it
honest. So
was really good. Like a lot of the questions I was gonna ask, you answered a bunch of them. And yeah, the community is huge. Just or even feeling like you're not going through this alone. It's so different watching a pre-recorded video and being able to hear stuff live and to be able to interact and see that there's actually other people like you with similar symptoms, similar stories, similar situations that they're experiencing, and to know that they're getting better and that if you just stick to the path and implement some of the things that you're going to get there as well. And also at least something that really helped for me whenever I was flaring up or I did have those times where I started getting shaky in my mindset and start downward spiraling. It's just remembering that it's just a temporary thing. Like I flared up 100 times before, I didn't die, not once, even when I was certain that it was going to kill me. So that really helped me as well. For you, um, if you had to narrow it down to like the biggest mind shift you had that really turned this around for you, what would you say that biggest mind shift was?
I was just thinking of sharing this as you were saying it, which is really wild. The universe works in mysterious ways. My biggest mind, because you were just saying that how like you were so used to having APs and stuff, and you would have to talk yourself through when you had another one. My
Mhm.
biggest mind shift was literally, I mean, at my core, in my heart, a surrender, a mind shift of, hey, I I literally give up the fight. I surrender to this experience. Whatever my body will do to me, whatever life throws at me, it is what it is. I can handle it. I'll get it through it. And all of the subsequent times when my body was doing whatever, tingling, I had a headache, I did, there was no more thoughts of having, I didn't have to coach myself through it anymore because there was that deep knowing and trust and surrender that you're already like, you already feel like you're already at the end goal. Once you stop trying to recover, the recovery will come to you. Like I made a post about this, and that's the biggest mind shift that you can have. And it's that deep, like, peace knowing that you will, like, that you finally surrender and you're like, this is it. This is what's going on. I'm okay with it. And
Yeah.
as the more okay I'm with it, the better it is for me. And if you apply that to this and anything in your life, you're gonna be coasting. I'm telling you. And I'm not
Mhm.
just here to say you're not going to have a bad day. Like, we're human. Like, you have the right to feel a little anxious in a scary situation or whatever, but it's warranted, right? It's not for no reason. It's warranted. So that's the
Mhm.
biggest surrender, man. I mean, that was the one thing that I felt like was holding me back. Like, I just didn't want to let go. I didn't want to be okay with having this. I wanted to fight it. I wanted to win. I had to get over it. And that surrender piece was the biggest mind shift. And I think that could be key for so many people because it literally takes off the whole pressure. Like, you take so much pressure off yourself if you have that mind shift. And I think it's
Mhm.
key. 100%.
And when you say surrender, it's like surrender to the symptoms and be okay with it, right? And almost
Yeah,
like
I
let
don't mean like, oh, I give up, like, there's no more hope for me. It's just like you get out of your own way. Like, you stop like worrying about it. You stop fighting with it. You stop like trying to change it, making it go away, and you're at peace with whatever's happening in your body. And that's what the surrender is, right? It's not like, oh, like, white flag, like, I give up, like, I'm screwed for life. No, it's like, hey, like, even if this is for life, what I'm experiencing now, I will deal with it and I'm okay. Like, I'm okay with it. And you have to really be like that okay. Like, if you're still at that, oh, like, if I'll have this for life, oh, like, I can't do that. Like, oh my God. Like, of course no one wants to have it for life. And you won't. You won't, right? But you have to be so okay with it that even if you're still good, right? And that's the level of surrender you have to get to. And I feel like that when you get there, you're an accelerator to recovery, like, at that point.
Mhm.
For me,
Yeah.
at least, personally.
Yeah, for me it was knowing that no matter what symptoms come my way, no matter how intense the flare up is, no matter how long it lasts, I'll be okay. And it was truly feeling that in the depths of my soul that I'm going to be okay. Whereas before, it was overthinking every single scenario, trying to control the symptoms. But the more you try to control them and try to use willpower to grind through and make the symptoms go away, the more they stick around and the more they're gonna hit you. They're gonna feel way more intense. So you learn to truly just let go. It's kind of like what Bruce Lee said, right? He's like, be like water, just flow. And you can't fight nature. And if you try to fight nature, it's not going to be a good time. I kind of compare it to almost like a river that surges, right? If you're trying to stop all the water in this river that surges, it's going to surge anyways. You're not going to stop a river from that huge water flow. Kind of like with symptoms, you're going to have these waves of symptoms. They're going to come regardless. And if it's hitting you, there's no way you could stop it. It's going to happen. You just kind of have to ride it out. And the less resistance you put up to it, the easier experience it's going to be. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's going to be easier than if you try to stop that water in that river. You're not going to win against nature, but it's temporary.
You're building up a crisis. I mean, if you stop the water in the river, the surge, you're adding more surge to the surge, and then when the wall eventually breaks, you got double the surge to deal with now. So you might as well just handle what's in front of you, right? And then let it
Exactly.
pass, and then you're good to go. And that, I mean, that's pretty much it. You're literally riding the wave of recovery. If I were to put it right, if you think of recovery like a river, it's like that, right? And then you have a surge sometimes, right? And then if you don't put yourself in the way of the surge and you let it happen, the river will just keep flowing, and eventually you
Mhm.
hit still water, right? And and
Yeah.
and I mean, that's the
Ex-
best way I could put it, so.
exactly. And that's actually a video module in the program somewhere, riding the waves of recovery. Because it's kind of like yeah,
I know the
it's kind of
spiral staircase thing. That was really cool, man. I always felt like I was going in circles, man. Let me tell you.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. It can be compared to like surfing as well. As you're learning these concepts and you know, when you try to implement them, it doesn't seem to work right off the bat, but you get better and better at it. I think recovery, it's like a skill. And most people think recovery, it all comes down to the physical things that you're doing, but really it's a lot of emotional and cognitive stuff you're doing. It's what you're thinking, it's how you're feeling, how you're dealing with emotions. Most people just try to slowly increase their walking over time. Now, I try that, but it'll get you somewhere, but it's not going to last because the root cause is dealing with your survival mode, your fight or flight
Right.
centers is in your brain. So
Dude,
I think for you, did you ever come across this kind of stuff early on when doctors were saying it's in your head, it's in your mind, and get offended? Because I got so offended before it, but I didn't realize it was actually in my brain, the way my brain was signaling my body. But the symptoms were real. It's just no one was explaining to me how the brain would cause physical symptoms. So were you turned off by the whole like it's in your head thing?
oh, so I was pissed, man. I wasn't turned off. I was enraged, man. I was like, "What do you mean, man? Like, but I'm feeling these symptoms. Like, you guys don't under. I mean, I had to have gone through like so many doctors because I was like, I want one of you to be on my side, Like, look, I lost all faith in the medical system at this point. I mean, I hope that they implement something like this into the system, into psychiatry or into Western medicine. What do you call it? Home, whatever, any type of medicine. I feel like they need to implement this stuff because this is what to do. Like it is what to do. And like, oh man, yeah, I was enraged, man. And you know what? Like the thing is they were right, but they didn't explain why they were right. They just like told you they were like, and it's like, yeah, it's in your head. Well, it kind of is, right? And like you said, like
Yeah.
it's it is though, right? It is. And I'm not laughing because it's funny, but it's true. Like all these things like that you fought against, like when people were telling you, like you realize at the end, it's like, man, like everybody kind of had a little bit of a golden nugget. I was just too like afraid to realize like what people were actually trying to help me, but people don't really know how to. Like this is a thing that people have no idea. Like they just have no idea what to do with it, right? Like most people don't. Like you come up and tell people like, I think I have CFS, this and this. They look at you funny, So
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what attracted you to the channel, with CFS recovery is that we actually try to break things down as simple as possible, but for it to make sense, because I'm also a pretty analytical person. I've learned to trust my instincts a lot more in the recent years, but still, I need data that makes sense for me to make decisions. So when my doctor explained this in a way that made sense, I was like, wait, okay, so your body runs on some kind of software. Okay, it's in your nervous system and brain. And if there's a glitch in that software, that's what causes the symptoms. No wonder they're not finding anything in my tests. It doesn't mean that the symptoms aren't real or that I wasn't feeling all the stuff I was feeling. It just means that there's an issue with the brain, with the way my brain was communicating. And for me, I was like, okay, that actually makes some sort of sense. Whereas all the other doctors were just like, yeah, you're depressed. It's in your head. We need to send you to a therapist or something. But they weren't even validating what I was feeling. So there was a complete distrust with them because they're just
Yeah.
looking at you like you're a piece of meat in a way.
Absolutely. And like you said, like CFS, I feel like it's you build up being a certain way for a long time, that you wire your brain in a certain way. And CFS is just like the breaking point where it solidifies all the wiring. And then
Yeah.
what keeps it alive is you practice being that way. And then you're so afraid that you're like strengthening the neural networks literally in your brain to continue wiring the same way in the same way. So like you're reverse brain training yourself to be sick, and the people do it like not knowing that they're doing it to themselves. And like it's all about just reversing that pathway, and it takes time to create new neural pathways, man. I mean,
Mhm.
however long it takes you, some people's brains wire faster than others. And I mean, that's literally what you're doing. And it's behavioral,
Mhm.
it's mental, it's physical, it's all of it, right? Because you can't treat the
Mhm.
body as separate parts. We're one unit, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
And
exactly what it is, man. Like,
that's so true. It's like when we're falling into this illness and we're on a downward spiral, in a way, we are brain retraining, but in the wrong direction. It's like we're strengthening all the connections that are going towards fight or flight. We're strengthening the amygdala,
yeah.
basically. And it's interesting because a lot of us who get this type A personalities, it's hard for us to let go of control. Perfectionism traits are there. So how we approach life, in always wanting to do it properly, always wanting to do it perfect, not make a mistake, that translates over into recovery. It's like, okay, I don't want to flare up. So let me do it perfectly this way. I'll track my steps, make sure my heart rate doesn't get past this stage. So it amplifies and compounds the downward spiral because those traits are strengthened if you don't know what's going on. Right.
Oh
So
yeah.
it is brain retraining in the wrong direction.
All the tracking, dude. Like by checking your heart rate all the time, your blood pressure, like just you the lengths that you go, man. I mean, tracking. I can't tracking steps, tracking heart rate, breathing, SpO2. You become an expert in so many things that you should have a degree by the time you're done with this thing. I mean, at least for me, like what I researched, it's like, man, here's your master's diploma, man, you know? So
Yeah. Well,
uh
in your case, you literally got a master's
yeah,
degree in
my
trying
case,
to.
I mean, dude, what I was that desperate, you know? So, oh man,
Oh, that's
I did
crazy. That's
NLP too, man. I went to like I studied like global neuro linguistic programming and like motivational coaching, and like I even like went to learn that. I was like, all right, maybe if I learn this, like I'll be able to like even help myself more. And like now these things they're awesome. Like I'm so glad I have these tools, right? But
yeah.
oh man, man, I tap myself on the shoulder, and nowadays, man, I don't care about being perfect, man. I just care about doing the best that I can, man. Because no, it's not realistic, and it's just way too much pressure, man. However
Yeah.
it gets done, it gets done, man. Like you know, just I just so much more chill. Like it's not that hard. Like it's not that hard, Like you don't have to be like that hard about life. It's not that hard. And no
Yeah.
and there's you don't have to have all these crazy expectations either, man. Just like relax into it a little bit more, and anything that ever happens, you're a grown person. You can deal with what's in front of you, man. You can't deal with the future. You can't change the past. But whatever happens in front of you, man, you can deal with it. You can deal with it, and there's always a way out of every situation. And I mean, that's another thing that I've taken out of this too. So yeah, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm the same way. Yeah, with all the stuff we've been through, all the times where it seemed like it was impossible to get out of this hole, and the fact that we got out of it, now we know anything that life throws at us, where we can handle it. No matter how bad things get, because we've seen the bottom of the pit, or at least, our version of the bottom of the pit. So now I have this kind of sense of what do you call it? Kind of confidence and reassurance, knowing that even if it happened all again for whatever reason, I'd know how to get out and I wouldn't break, because there were so many times where I thought that was it. There is no coming back from this. I'm too deep in the hole. I'm too deep in the quicksand. It's impossible to get out. And I got out. And I think that's what a lot of people experience when they come out of this. It makes you a million times stronger than you were before, but also a better version of yourself, because now you know what not to do, basically, or how not to live life. You know exactly how you got sick and why it happened and what perpetuated the symptoms. So that's another big thing. It's like you've made it to this point, you made it out of it, but you also understand how you made it out and why it even happened, which is going to prevent you from falling into this in the future. You know,
yeah.
like right now, you're doing a lot of activities. So maybe tell us what life looks like right now for you. What kind of stuff are you doing? You're out there thriving.
Yeah, so now it's a little bit colder out, but every morning I would wake up, I go to the forest, I'd walk with my girlfriend around the forest. I'm walking all the time. I mean, I track my stuff, but I don't track it to freak out. I just track it because I track my calories and I want to stay fit and in shape and stuff. So I do that. I go to the gym twice per week. I walk everywhere for my groceries, like everything. I drive my car everywhere. um, I watch movies. I run my own business. I teach like English online to companies here in Poland. Yeah, I'm in a relationship with my girlfriend. I mean, pretty much normal, I guess. I don't know. There's certain things that I just don't do because I don't do them anymore. I don't go to parties. I don't go clubbing. It's just not me. And yeah, I mean, just normal, like just normal life.
Yeah.
I'm still a pretty regimented individual because I mean, that's just what I like. I eat healthy because I want to look good and I want to feel good and yeah, there's a lot of things that stuck with me that will stick with me, like having a healthy diet, sleep routine, and stuff like that. But those are just the fundamentals, man. I mean, that's the lifestyle that helped me get healthy. So why would I change it? So
Yeah.
just,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, just a normal
And
life. I can travel, I certain things still, of course, stress me out. Like, I can get nervous. Like, I use this thing as an opportunity, like to face any fear that's ever possible. It's like, dude, if you can, I feel like if once you go through this in your life, I feel for me, and I feel like this is the worst thing I'm ever gonna have to go through, and whatever else life throws at me, it's like, dude, I can 100% handle it. Um, there was at some point, dude, where I was like, I wish I'd like, if you just chop my hand off, like I'd rather have no hand. Like it was, to just feel better. And yeah, man, just I'm doing whatever I can. And if there's a fear that I have or there's something that makes me anxious, I go towards it. I don't shy away from it. Like maybe spiders, but I don't know. We'll still test that one out. But
yeah, yeah. And for you, what do you think has been the biggest kind of shift in your perspective on how you see life compared to the old Jersey? And you kind of mentioned it, like now you don't rush as much. You're able to enjoy your time. You don't put as much pressure on yourself. Sounds like you're able to really enjoy life for you, not for the person you think you should be. But what has
that's
been the
still a
biggest?
process. That is still growth in process, right? Living life for me. And what else would I say? Can you repeat the question one more time? Sorry.
Yeah, what do you think has been the biggest shift in your perspective of how you see life going through this?
Neutral. I neutralized it. I neutralized life. Um, there's no black and white. There's all just a you. I just seeing life for what it is, I think more like living life in a kind of more directly, like seeing life directly and not like coming up with stories in my head of what I feel like life is or should be or shouldn't be. It's just kind of like this attitude of gratitude. I mean, it sounds cheesy, like they all say, like all the self-help says that, but it's true, man. Like, and I have to cultivate this every single day, like it's a practice. And I think that, man, just living life like surrendered and not so black and white, not so doomsday, like making an atom bomb out of a simple situation, like, um, yeah, man. I mean, just solution oriented thinking, seeing opportunities instead of challenges. It's just, you change it's so much, man. And it's
Yeah.
still a process for me. I'm going to be honest with you, and this is just where I'm at now, so yeah, I mean, that's a whole, just a whole, it's like going from like an anxious and fearful, insecure state to a more wholesome state. And it's a work in progress, man. I'll be honest. It's a work in progress every day. So
Yeah. Well, I still feel that same way. And I'm 6 years out of the hospital. I've been traveling, working. I've been having thriving health for a number of years now. But even now, sometimes I have to remind myself to not take life so seriously. But it's a much, much better balance than before. Like last week, I went paddleboarding a bunch of times, went to the beach a bunch of times, and I'm actually able to slow down and take breaks. Whereas the old Miguel, oh, good luck trying to take a break because you bring him to a beach, he's going to be super stressed out. He's going to be thinking about work. But now I can turn that dial down and see different parts of life. Whereas before it was all just, we need to make progress, need to be productive, need to do this and that, chase goals. Whereas now it's like I spend way more time with my family and friends, and it's a much more wholesome life, I would say. Much more wholesome life than it was
absolutely.
before. Well, this has been an awesome chat, Jerzy. This went really deep, and this is going to inspire a lot of people. I'm going to save some lives. So that's the cool thing about
Yeah,
this is your journey. You didn't just do it for you. It's the ripple effect and the impact it has on other people. And now you're like a beacon of hope for people, especially with that book that you wrote. So we'll definitely share that to everybody. But really appreciate you coming on here. For you guys watching this right now, comment down below. What was your biggest takeaway from this chat? And what did you resonate with the most? Maybe it's trying the same things he tried. Maybe it's, dealing with some of the struggles that Jerzy went through as well. Because I feel like no matter what CFS path you take, there's a lot of crossover between these different stories. And that's what kind of makes us feel connected to something like this, right? So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Keep on going. Don't ever give up. I mean, you heard Jerzy's story. The amount of times that he tried to make progress and just hit a wall, but never gave up. And that's why he's here today and he's thriving. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Always remember that you are a thriver and you are just one mind shift away from living a life with thriving health. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Jerzy, thank you so much and keep on crushing it, man.